Okay, we are here for Ask the Pastors this week with Pastor Ryan and Pastor Russ. How are you guys today?
We're
Very
doing
good.
great.
Great,
Very
great,
good.
great.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you.
Well, here we are in day two of a little bit of more open, less restrictions
Right.
for St. Louis County. And I was wondering what you guys are thinking as far as the first place that you might go that you've not been able to go since things are opened up a little bit more.
Well, I'll start. I was thinking I would be really ready to get a haircut, but Polly has in the meantime given me a trim.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting by. I think she did a really good job.
So sweet.
And so now I'm beginning to think baseball.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
I like
guys.
to go to my grandson's Little League games, but also certainly would like to go to a Cardinal game, but that may be a long time off yet, but we'll see.
Oh man, I hope they start and we can actually go watch some Cardinals play.
Right.
How about you,
Right.
Ryan?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I checked out, there's a few of the places where you can get a haircut that are open today. But the wait looking online was about 3 hours. So yeah. So I don't know that I need one that bad.
Yeah, really. I suppose they're having to limit how many people can be in at one time. And so
Yeah.
it's
Who
going to take a
knows?
while. Yeah.
Right. So,
Earlier today, I saw Julie Loest had posted they wouldn't do blow drying at her salon. So, modifications, and they're trying to make it work as best they can. But
yeah.
definitely not like normal as we can imagine. But what about the summer? Our family had plans to go to Disney World this summer.
Yeah.
So that's going to be out of the question. I mean, they might open, but
Right.
I don't think we're comfortable with the crowds. So not sure what our family is going to do. Do you guys have any big plans?
Well, we got a vacation scheduled actually in mid-June.
Yeah.
We're going to Destin, and we're
Ooh.
planning to go to
Nice.
Destin, and I think we're going to plan to go.
You're going to do it.
And so we're looking forward to that. We got word today from the condominium we're going to be staying in that the beaches are open, fully open,
Very good.
and all the Florida Panhandle, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we're looking forward to it.
That's
Very good.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
we
wish I
had.
could go to the beach.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we had a niece that was born during the pandemic here, and so my brother and his wife had a baby a few weeks ago, and so we're hoping to make a trip to Minneapolis to meet her and see our nephew. But all of that's just still kind of up in the air right now. But that would be a goal. We haven't seen Karen's mom or my folks since Thanksgiving and Christmas. So if there's
Yeah.
any way at all to try to connect with them, we'd like to do that as well. So those are the plans, but they're not firm yet.
Yeah. I think there'll be far less flying this summer and more driving, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah. Miss Polly's saying you need to use a bowl and a pair of dull scissors, Ryan. That'll give you a good haircut.
She didn't do that to me.
Oh. I think I'm being set up, but
Yeah. Oh my. Well, we've got lots of people watching. So
okay, all right.
we'll kind of dive in. So this episode this week is a special one, and I think it might be one of the most anticipated Ask the Pastors so
Right.
far,
Yeah.
because we're going to talk about the results from the reopening survey. We were so astounded by the great response that we had for that. Over 200 and what was it, 47? I think.
Oh,
is
yeah, I was
what
gonna
we
think
have now.
it was
47, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, 247 responses, which was amazing. And we're thankful for the church providing some feedback. And to say that we can't wait to get back to worship would be a gross understatement, right?
Yeah.
We're thankful for technology making it possible for us to still gather on Sundays remotely. But man, being back together is our goal. And we definitely don't want to have to do this much longer.
That's right.
So what do you guys, this is a little personal here, what are you guys missing most about worship specifically right now?
Well, I think I miss seeing the people, the fellowship. It was good to see everyone that came to the food drive. Of course, everyone stayed in their car, but it was good to see them. And I second what you just said, Kara, in that people are ready to get back to church. Everyone I had a chance to talk to, I asked them, what can we do for you? Is there anything that we can help you with? And probably 2/3 said, no, I'm good. somewhere around a third, 25% said, get us back in church.
Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
I
right.
have to agree. Sunday was like a little food for my soul. I volunteered. I took some pictures there at the food drive. And by the way, if you're watching, we collected almost 2 tons of donations for Circle of Concern. That is huge.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all that came through and donated. It seemed like there were hundreds of cars. We have a count of around 76 that we know of, but it seemed like so many more than that. And man, seeing people and waving and seeing faces was just like, makes you realize how much you really do miss worship.
Yeah.
I saw Miss Pat Londine comment on some of the photos we posted that, she cried all the way home because you just don't realize how much you miss it and how much you love your church family and worshiping together in person.
Right.
So we just can't wait to get to that point. So Ryan, what do you miss the most right now?
Well, there's a number of things. I think last time I answered the question by saying, I miss singing with the church family. You just can't beat being together, raising our voices in one accord. I mean, there's such power and just encouragement, when we are singing together, and it just really unifies us. But I'll also add another one on there. I'm looking forward to preaching to people and not a camera. So, it's just, it's hard to tell a joke when no one laughs. And I mean, that happens. I mean, it happens in front of people too, but it really happens whenever there's just a camera there. But it's just not the same. I mean, I didn't realize before how much connection happens in the preaching experience, where you're connecting with people and you're reading the Word of God together, and it's so different. So that's going to be great to have that again.
Yeah. I think I miss the singing part too. I really miss seeing people do their thing and seeing them filled with the Spirit, watching you preach in the Spirit, watching our musicians deliver worship for us in the Spirit, watching people do that brings me joy. And so absolutely. I do, we see that a little bit through video, but it's just not the same as when you're in person. So I'm anxious to get back to that. So.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the survey that went out. And again, we had a lot of responses, about 240 or a little bit more. And there was a wide range of responses, which we're seeing this kind of across the country. If you're watching social media or even the news, you're seeing all the varying responses. And, we got some from, I'm not coming back to church until maybe there's a vaccine, all the way to, I'm ready to start right now and I'm not worried about a thing.
Yeah, right.
So the issue can become polarizing. So how can you guys, encourage our church family that when we do start gathering again, that we're doing so in a unified spirit somehow, where there won't be that frustration or maybe anxiety about the mixed emotions and perspectives people have on this?
Yeah. No, that's a really important question, an important statement that you've made. This is going to give us an opportunity to consider the needs of others and to really do so with charity, with an understanding that there are differences of opinion. I mean, you mentioned how many surveys we got. We also had 100 of those 245 people that wrote additional comments into the survey. And so that's nearly half, so, not 40%, something like that. And so when you see that much feedback, that there's a lot of perspective out there. And so, I think for us, health and safety, absolutely, that's number one. We want people to feel that the environment that they're coming into is safe for them, that we've done all that we can to try to have the precautions in place. But I would say right after that this is a matter of church unity, that we want to listen to what other people's perspectives are, what their needs are, and demonstrate that love by not undermining the thoughts of others. And we can do this. I mean, we can. And there's certainly other times that we've agreed upon things just so that we can keep peace, and that'll be a primary need for us going forward.
I think
I might add to that. We want to assure everyone that we're doing everything we possibly can to accommodate the preferences that we've heard in the survey and heard otherwise. But everyone knows that we can't accommodate every single preference of every single person.
Right.
So we, as Ryan said, we do need respect for each other. I'm reminded that I think it's Philippians 2:3, treat others more important than yourself. And so I think that's the attitude that we hopefully will have as we go back into the having church on campus.
Yeah.
Let's pray for that for sure.
Yep,
I think
absolutely.
we've got experience with this as far as just merging a few years ago.
That's right.
We took
Right.
2 churches and brought them together. So,
Right.
yeah, you're right, Ryan. We can do this. We can do this,
Yes,
definitely with the
absolutely.
help of the Holy Spirit amongst us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so the survey revealed that when you look at that first pie chart, I think we shared it in our fellowship news last week,
Yes.
but
Yep.
about 65% are ready to come back. Now, half of those are, with precautions, and the other half, I think, are just ready regardless.
Yeah. Right.
But then there's more. There's another 25% that they're going to wait a while before they come back, even if we start meeting. And then 10% that just aren't sure.
Right.
So can you tell us how you're going to plan to accommodate all those that want to come back right away and those that don't? And how will we all still be able to worship?
Well, that's a great question. I want to add something at the very beginning. We, on a dime, had to turn quickly in the middle of March and really begin providing ministry options online. And I would just like to say from the beginning that we intend to continue that. We, as you mentioned, 25% of our folks are going to wait some time before they come back, and so we want them to still be very connected and be a part of what's taking place. And so that's going to continue. And it's one of those silver linings from the pandemic, because by pushing us into this technical area, by providing online service, it's something that could be a benefit down the road as well. Someone not able to come to church because they're sick, or they have a sick kid at home, or maybe they're on a business trip, and still being able to stay connected. So that's very much going to be our plan going forward, but particularly in the coming weeks.
Right. Okay,
that doesn't really address the precautions of those that are coming. So yeah, Russ, why don't you jump in and share some of that?
Well, I think that's the idea, is that those who feel like they need to stay out for a few weeks, not come back to the church building for a few weeks, it's still going to be available online. And hopefully that'll be the start of online every Sunday going forward, not just during the pandemic.
Right.
But that's how I think we're looking at it.
Okay. Yep.
Great. Okay, so I know that both of you have followed very closely the information provided by the county, St. Louis County, and the state of Missouri, and you've been involved in some calls with the governor and other church leaders in our region. So Russ, what are the positions of the county and state regarding churches holding services on campus?
Okay, that's a good question. Governor Parson has a conference call every Friday with religious leaders throughout Missouri. And I've been listening to most of those, participating in them. And some of you may know that Missouri as a whole opened up May the 4th. So some churches in Missouri had church service on Mother's Day, May the 10th, with strict precautionary measures, strict social distancing. The governor talked about maintaining the 6-foot distance, face mask. He did say that families could sit together. I think that's what we're going to be looking at. And so some churches actually had service on Mother's Day. He also recognizes that different areas in the state are different in terms of where the local areas are in relation to the pandemic. So in essence, he's delegated to the local authorities how to reopen the community, reopen the churches as we go forward. And so we're giving preference to what the St. Louis County Executive says, Dr. Sam Page. And many listening and watching probably know that we began to reopen, I think, as you said a while ago, Kara, yesterday, May 18th. And so there are provisions in that order that would allow us to meet this coming Sunday, but again, with very strict social distancing measures. And half of our church, and I think probably the consensus of the elders and the pastors, is that we should wait a few weeks until we open back up, reopen the church for church services. I think at that point, we'd concentrate mainly on the worship services and not the rest of the activities that we normally do at the church.
Okay.
So that's kind of a summary of what we know about what the governor's saying and what the St. Louis County executive is saying.
I just want to jump in and mention one thing, because I don't think Russ will mention it, but on one of the calls to the governor, Russ submitted a question that was taken, and I don't remember how many. I mean, it's hundreds, if not more than 1,000 people listening. And so, so Russ had a question that was picked up and taken. And Russ, why don't you tell the church what the governor thinks about the Fellowship of Wildwood?
Well, the moderator remembered that the governor spoke at the prayer breakfast, men's prayer breakfast at the church back in November.
Yeah.
And so the moderator reminded the governor that he had been to Fellowship of Wildwood. He said, "Oh, I remember." He said the breakfast was great.
Yeah, I think
he knew how to prepare and serve a meal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he complimented the cinnamon rolls too, I think, or something.
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome. But I don't know the governor. I don't know how he could have been any more accommodating to religious leaders in churches right now. I mean, in terms of, from the beginning, he's been hosting these calls, and it's really been. In fact, he had the leader of Missouri Baptists, the Missouri Baptist Convention, on one of the calls as well. So he has really reached out, and that just gives us peace of mind, because as you look across the country, you know that governors are handling this very differently. But he's been working diligently to try to have a plan in place that would make it as safe as possible for people to gather again and worship.
Well, it sounds like you guys are being cautious, which is, I think, great in light of what's happening and the demographics of our church and our region, specifically being in near a hotspot for the state of Missouri specifically.
Right.
Ryan, maybe you could answer this one. Why is it important to consider what the government's saying about public gatherings? There's a lot of people that are just frustrated and they just want to get back to normal, and they just don't think it's that big of a deal. Can you answer that for us?
Well, it really brings about a debate, in terms of whether or not the government oversteps its reach, oversteps the bounds when they begin giving guidelines for churches to be open or how they should operate. And so, I know that raises a whole lot of questions, and they're legitimate ones. But I'm also reminded of Romans 13, and that we recognize that government and authorities, civil authorities, have been put in place for the good of community and the blessing of society and protection and so forth. And I'm just reminded that churches have, at least in Missouri, have not been singled out, and the same way that other gatherings, whether it's a movie theater or a sport venue, we all have similar challenges in the sense of trying to put a large group of people in one room. And so in each of those venues, there's been restrictions given. So we haven't been singled out here in Missouri. And so I want us to look to those authorities and respect them, as long as it doesn't conflict with what God's word's saying. I think it also is part of our testimony. We know that there have been some churches in the community, and not in our community, but in some parts of the country that have reopened and were told not to, and just that testimony of how they're being perceived in the community, particularly if someone in the community is saying, do you care about all the work that we've done to bring the numbers down? Do you care about the well-being and the health of others? I mean, we want to do this in a way that doesn't present the wrong message. So, I should have paused there. Russ, you had someone with
Is that
you.
Landon?
That was Landon.
All
That's
Hi,
my
right.
oldest grandson. He's staying the night with us.
Ooh, that's super fun.
Well, if he
Yeah,
comes back through, we'll give him the floor for a second. I should have done that.
yeah.
He popped in and popped out before I got done.
He's in the
Right.
second grade now, as of a couple of days ago. He's now
Yay.
in the second grade.
First grade graduate. That's awesome.
So, Kara, let me just say one final thing about that.
Okay.
I mean, we want to be a church that loves our neighbors. And, when I go into the grocery store, I'm wearing a face mask. And from what I can tell, from what I've read about the kind of mask that I wear, if I have the virus, it's protecting those around me. But if I come into contact with someone that has the virus, that mask may not protect me. And so I know that opens up a whole lot of questions. I'm not trying to go that way. Oh, there he is again. Landon, do you want to say hi?
Landon.
Hi.
Can you say hi to Miss Kara and hi to Pastor Ryan?
Hi, Landon.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good.
All
How's
right.
it been to be a second grader?
Good.
Good. Way to go, buddy.
Yeah, we're glad to see you.
All
I'm
right.
sorry,
so-
Ryan, you were saying?
Yeah.
Well, no, I just think that, for us to just take that perspective as well as just remembering what the thoughts and concerns of others are, because we want to have a testimony in the community that builds upon what we're trying to do, not something that would ever take away from that.
Right. Right. Okay, so here we are, 22 minutes in, and
Okay.
I'm going to ask the $1 million question. When do you think we can reopen campus for worship?
Well, we really think that the beginning of June is reasonable. And the reason being that puts us, as of yesterday, St. Louis County started the its next phase and of reopening, and that would be 2 weeks of this reopening before we would move into the next phase. And so that's what we're looking at. That would be Sunday, June the 7th. And, that's what we're planning for at this point. Now, I think we could say that's tentative in the sense that, we all realize that something could change very quickly. But it appears that June the 7th seems reasonable. Picking that date doesn't mean that we're the first church to open its doors, but I also know that won't mean we're the last ones. I mean, we're just trying to take this measured approach. We're learning from some other churches that have opened. Even some in our metro area. I mean, when you go outside of St. Louis County into St. Charles County and Franklin County, Jefferson County, I mean, we're getting feedback, and I've been on calls with other pastors and talk through what they're doing. And so this will give us a little more time, but it's not that much longer either. I mean, we're already in the middle of May here. So if we look at June the 7th, I think that would be a reasonable time period, at least today. It seems that.
Okay, so that's the soonest that we could start
Yeah.
meeting again would be
Yeah.
June the 7th. Okay.
Yes.
So that's not necessarily official, but that gives us kind of a starting point to kind of think about when we might be back up at church.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. With that being said, we know that the survey confirmed that precautions are a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Sanitation, masks, maybe some seating arrangements, handshaking, hugging, food, collecting tithes, and more are all on everybody's mind. And I'm going to say after Sunday and seeing people that you just love through the food drive line, it is going to be hard to not hug on everybody when we see each other. It's been so long, but these are important, and they're important to almost everyone that filled out the survey. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Russ, can you tell us what's happening in the building to get us prepared and to that point as far as sanitation and maybe how the building's being cleaned and prepared for that?
Certainly. We plan to, I call it fogging, fumigate, spray the worship center foyer area and the adjacent areas to that. There have been a number of people in the worship center with the construction project. And by the way, that's going to be a real pleasant thing for everyone to see that. The video screen is really, really nice. And the sound system also sounds very good. Yeah. But that's where the people have been. And so we plan to do that a few days ahead of June the 7th. And that's, you may have seen on TV, people with backpacks going around spraying, fogging. And that's what we intend to do thoroughly in the worship center foyer and the adjacent areas. CDC guidelines are that if the building has been vacant for 7 days or more, there's no need to take any special precautions, only those that you normally would do. And so the building, all the rest of the building has been pretty much vacant for ever since we've been in the stay home order. Also, we will only be opening the worship center for your area. And so that's the logic behind the extra measures in that area.
Okay. Do you anticipate more services or the same services, Russ?
I think we're going to have just the regular services at 8:30 and 11.
Okay.
I think there'll be some different requirements for each service, but we'll maintain strict social distancing requirements, measures in both services. We plan to make the face mask required in the 8:30 service.
Okay.
And in the 11 o'clock service, the face mask would be recommended. But what it would look like then is that people would come to the campus for the 8:30 service, would have service, and then would leave the campus. And so the campus then would be vacant for a little while. We would do some sanitizing and disinfecting in between services.
Great.
And then the crowd would come, the people would come for the 11 o'clock service. And by the time that they arrive, everyone from the early service is gone. So that's a way to help limit the number of people in the building at one time.
Okay. All right. Now, maybe there'll be a way for people to come in the building and then a different exit to kind of keep people from mingling or passing each other too much, or is that in the plan?
Well, we anticipate having all the foyer doors open, I think.
Okay.
By the way, we plan to have the doors blocked open.
Great.
So that no one will have to touch the door handle.
Okay.
As they come in, we'll have the restroom doors blocked open.
Okay.
So when people go to the restroom, then we again won't have to touch the doors to open them and pick up germs.
All right. What about tithe and the plate?
We plan on not passing the offering plate. We plan on having ushers stand at the exit doors for people to leave their tithe in the offering plate as people leave, or if people don't want to get that close to an usher, although our ushers are great people,
Of course.
we plan to have an usher or two stationed at the welcome desk where people could simply lay their offering envelope on the welcome desk and we'll pick them up later.
Okay. Well, I think that covered a lot of them, specifically that mask one. You know, we had a lot of responses that they feel like everybody should wear a mask. And so that's a great way to alleviate that worry for some, is making it required in one service so that those people are comfortable there and then recommended in the other. So that sounds like a great compromise there. All right, so last week on Ask the Pastors, Pastors Brad and Tim talked a little bit about family ministry, you know, shepherding families through a pandemic, as well as, you know, some choices that were made about childcare and kids ministry and student ministry not resuming right away. So that means our families, and we want to encourage our families to come back when we are open again. But I know that there's going to be some that are worried because maybe they're worried their kids, you know, are going to have trouble sitting still or being quiet. Ryan, can you encourage them a little bit in that perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be kind of like a Christmas Eve service. You know, we have everybody come in and we're all together and so no, I don't want anyone to feel inhibited to come. Obviously we're not going to be able to, at least in the first phase of reopening, we're not going to be able to provide kids church or preschool church, you know, nursery services and those kinds of things. But, you know, families will be sitting together. Maybe it'll be clusters in the auditorium, or maybe even in the lobby, if that would make it more comfortable for them. We should be able to utilize the lobby as well. But we know that kids are going to move around and so forth, and that's okay. I mean, it's not a distraction. In fact, it's just a reminder of the Lord's blessing upon our church. When we're back together again, and we get to see everyone from even the youngest ones among us. So anyway, right. No, I hope that no family feels that they shouldn't come during this time. And maybe for some, maybe it would give an opportunity to provide bring a little sketch pad or a coloring book or something, and that's totally fine too. We may have some, I don't know, with all the precautions how we could distribute things, but people could certainly bring things with them to occupy time as well.
Yeah, I remember I used to pack a backpack full of stuff when my boys were little.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Keep them busy. So
yeah.
Okay, and Ryan, a few weeks ago, you had mentioned about the Lord's Supper, that when we would gather again, we would do the Lord's Supper. So is that still on the plan?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have ordered, and people have probably seen these before. They are pre-filled communion cups that are self-contained. They have like a cellophane wrapper over the juice, and then there's a little bread wafer that also is covered with cellophane plastic, and so it's a self-contained unit. And so we'd have to think carefully, probably lay them out on tables, and people would pick them up on their way in or something like that, so that we don't have people too close to one another. But that's those are things that we've used before when we take the Lord's Supper to nursing homes and hospitals, and so it'll just provide a safe way for us to be able to do that when we gather back. And if possible, we'd love to do that the first Sunday we're back. So that's our plan right now.
Okay, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Won't that be powerful just to be in the room together?
Yes.
Being able to sing together, worship together, partake of the Lord's Supper, and just see everyone. So
that's right.
It's exciting to think about that day is hopefully not too far away.
That's right.
Hopefully June 7th, we can keep to that date.
Yes.
So, okay, so we've talked a lot about worship.
Mm-hmm.
What other ministries will be happening when we open our doors? Anything, nothing besides worship?
I think for a few weeks, I think worship service is what we would concentrate on.
Okay.
Tim has indicated that he may want to do an outdoor activity with the students. And of course, if he did, he would, even though it's outdoor, he would utilize strict social distancing guidelines. So we've left a little room for that. But other than that, we think probably we need to just limit it to worship services for a while. And our small groups that are meeting online would continue to meet online.
Okay. Yeah, we have lots of small groups doing that right now, which is great to see.
It is.
I chatted with Larry Kahneman, through email yesterday. He said he has up to 50 sometimes on his Zoom calls for his Sunday school class or his small group. So that's really amazing to see everyone still connecting and utilizing that technology. But it'll be really good to get back together in person.
Yeah.
So
well, and let me just add, Kara, that we are wanting to make sure that people have some of the information that we've been talking about today, and as they get that information, we do have things like the small groups listed, because as these phases unfold with the county, so right now we're in phase 1 with the county. The county restrictions made it really hard for us to be able to gather during phase 1. But as we said, June 1st is when phase 2 begins, as long as nothing changes within the county. And then, we have those opportunities to gather. But then by the time we look at phase 3, which could be even a couple of weeks after that, we start looking at some opportunities for additional ministries and for small groups, and so we're very anxious to do all of that as quickly as we can, but it just needs to be a measured approach. But we'll communicate all that as well.
Okay, so how will that come about? Because now you've thrown all these phase numbers out there and all the different variables. So how can the church expect to know more, learn more about this, and what that will look like, to explain it all, where they can refer back to it to remember all the details?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, you've probably seen even the county and other entities have put together charts that have the different phases, and within each column, it shows specific information. And Russ has put together a chart that does that very thing related to Fellowship of Wildwood. And so,
Great.
we're going to make that available this week. Russ, is there anything else you'd like to explain about that chart? I know in many ways it's pretty self descriptive, but is there?
It's kind of our plan on one page. I
There
like
you
to
go.
put
Yeah.
as many things on one page as I can.
There you go. Yeah.
And so on one page, people will have a chance to look at how we plan to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, the dates. The dates will be tentative, but everyone can see what we have in mind. And I think the plan would be to have a link in this week's newsletter.
Okay.
In a couple of days, this week's newsletter, a link to it. And then, of course, when we do come back on campus, we'll have some paper hard copies available.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly right. All the information there on one page, and it includes the precautionary measures for each phase. As in terms of like whether or not the drinking fountains will be on, or whether we'll be serving any donuts and things like that. So each phase gives description on those precautionary measures.
Vicki Stamps just said she loves charts, so this is gonna be right up her alley. Vicki, I do too. I like to see it out and make check my boxes too. So
it was good. It was good to see Vicki and David. There were some that came through the line this week, so it was good to see them. But it'd be great to be worshiping with them again.
Oh, won't it? It certainly will. Okay, so to wrap up, I'm going to kind of summarize real quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
As soon as we would be able to worship together is June 7th, and that's still just a tentative date, but that's what we're going to hope for. And there will be precautions in place, and you'll be sending that information out later this week with those specifics, so people get all the information they need on one page like Russ likes it. And I can send that out via email through the Fellowship News. We'll also put it on social media, on Facebook and Instagram and all of our outlets that way too, so that we can celebrate together and look forward to the date where we will reopen. And it will certainly be a celebration. So we don't really have any other questions. So to wrap up, I just want to ask you one question. First, I'll start with, guys, thank you so much for leading our congregation through something that I know no one was prepared for. Specifically, there's not a class about shepherding your church through a pandemic in seminary. Sure.
Well,
so we're grateful for your leadership. We're grateful for how you shepherd our family, how you serve us. And I think I can speak for the congregation in saying that, and that you're doing an amazing job. And we're so thankful for both of you. In a time that's trying personally for so many people, we know it's trying and taxing on you both as well, and Tim and Brad too. And I just want to say, let us know, how can we be praying for you specifically? Maybe the pastors and the elders and the planning phases, how can we be praying right now as a church body before we come together?
Well, thank you, Kara. You're very kind to say those comments, and I appreciate that. The church family was very gracious, even in the way that they communicated through the survey, and so that it was encouraging. So thank you for that. And the church family has responded so well during this time and participated in different venues. I mean, whether it's student ministry on Wednesday night or kids ministry on Tuesday nights, and as you mentioned, the small groups and different things. So we sure appreciate everyone being so flexible. And when it comes to a matter to pray about, I think that an understanding that there are some among us that are anxious and worried, even as many of us are super excited about gathering back together. I just want us to recognize that there are some that are fearful about that and a little more worried. And so I think a point of prayer for one another, not only about the anxieties and fear, but praying also just for how can we stir one another on toward love and good work? How can we as a church family encourage each other and support one another? And there could even be greater needs that arise in the weeks and months ahead among the church family as a result of this. So that's where I think I would say it would be really helpful to focus our prayers in some of those directions.
I would second that. I would ask for prayers for wisdom, discernment as we go through making decisions. I think it's not only just the pastors, but it's also the pastors' families that are affected. And so I would ask for prayers for the family, for Polly, for me, for Ryan and Karen, for Brad and Jessica and Tim and Julianne, that we would be protected and provide the guidance that we should be providing to the church as we go through this.
So true. We love our pastors and we love our pastors' wives. So we do have one more question that came in. Miss Sue Marsh asks, will greeters be needed?
We will want greeters, but we'll have a little different look. Probably we'll have on face masks. Probably won't be hugging, standing 6 feet apart and that sort of thing. But yes, I think we will still need greeters. It's our plan to be in touch with the greeters and ushers in the next few days.
Okay. You'll be reaching out to those ministries and serve teams specifically.
Well, and you know, the greeters and ushers may find themselves having some unique roles. You know, there may be people coming in that have some questions that they wouldn't have had before. And thinking about the ushers, I mean, we're going to probably need some help just making sure that we arrange people in the sanctuary. And you know, the other thing that we really didn't mention in our time that's probably worth mentioning is that, you know, the St. Louis County will restrict how many people are allowed in a service, and so that's going to be one of the challenges, not only keeping the separation, but also making sure that we maintain the capacity numbers that they allow, which I think in phase 2, you know, is like 25%, phase 3 is 50%, I believe. And so, you know, those would be some of the things that we're also going to have to balance. And so ushers and greeters may be assisting with some of that.
Right, right. Okay, well, I think that kind of covers most of it. Again, the earliest we could worship together is June 7th, and there'll be modifications in place, precautions taken with social distancing, and we'll have all of that information out to the church family later this week. So that'll be awesome to see and have something to look forward to. So we thank you guys for your time, and everybody that's watching.
Yes.
Stay tuned next week. We have a super special episode coming next week as well, because we talked about how much we love our pastors, but we really love our pastors' wives too. So that'll be my hint for today.
Okay.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for hosting, Kara. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks, everybody.